Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. Today's our completed sales and pricing video that we like to do for CGC 9.8 comic books. I always like to say one of the best things you can do when you're collecting and actively buying the CGC 9.8 books is just stay on top of the prices, know the pricing information of the last few issues that sold for whatever book it might be, and there's way less of a chance of you overpaying if you kind of have that knowledge and information about the prices. So I have a great full list of key issues this week. Obviously brought two issues out of my own that had sold off of eBay for some pretty cool prices, and whenever Batman Beyond #1 kind of sells, I certainly always take note of that if I check it out in my research. So yeah, full list of key issues to get to here. They're all CGC 9.8 books. All the prices are in US dollars, and I'll have a full list in the description below. Sometimes when I watch these videos, I'll have the list in the description below open and just kind of follow along the audio almost. Also got some suggestions, some input from the team too, so we'll start out with that. So first book, An Amazing Spider-Man 300 had sold last week, and brought out my old case Amazing Spider-Man 300 here. I got one in the new case too, so just incredibly lucky to have two of them. And this one really nicely centered, nice colors, so great one to have in the old case. But one in a new case sold on eBay last week, and this one I had seen on Alamo City Collectibles Instagram page. Thanks to Alamo City for getting that information out there on this one. A new case Amazing Spider-Man 300 Direct Edition sold in an auction for $1,749. And that's definitely toward the lower end of the range, I think, in a new case. It was looking pretty good, too. I don't think it was like 100% perfectly centered, but looking really good. A CGC 9.8 white pages in a new case. On his Instagram as well, kind of 2 weeks, I would call it, about earlier, he had the same post saying that there was one that sold for $1,900 even in an auction. So, $1,749 for $1,900 going 2 weeks earlier. I think that's a really good price for this book in a new case. $1,750 basically. Really good price in a new case for An Amazing Spider-Man 300. This one was looking pretty good too. I always talk about kind of the slight differences in this book when it's really perfectly centered with the bright, vivid red colors. This one has really nice colors, not quite as nice colors as my other one in the new case, but kind of wanted to get some air to the old case 300 a bit, so I brought that one out instead. But with really nice colors, really nicely centered, they'll be kicking on 2,000 even in an auction, or like that 1,900. Sometimes they go over too if the pictures just look spectacular and the colors are really vivid. That gets collectors really excited about that book. Next book here we'll get into a Batman 423, a classic key issue I talk about all the time, one of my favorite Batman books, Todd McFarlane cover. This one in the first print too, so the one that you want to get, was sent in by Brett off Instagram, just talking to him through Instagram, and kind of one of the original team members here, I would say. I've been talking to Brett for a long time. He grabbed a really nice looking Batman 423, really nice vivid colors for $420. And I think it was last week or the week before, one had sold for $405. Colors weren't looking as good as this one, and this one too, like very good centering too. So yeah, I mean, essentially a perfect Batman 423 in the first print. $420, I think it's worth it. Certainly with a long-term perspective, I think it's really going to be worth it. Next book here was a great buy, I think, by Dave off of Instagram, team member Dave. Batman: The Dark Knight Returns #1, first appearance of Carrie Kelly, a classic 80s Batman book that's super investment grade, like one that, if you wanted to buy one Batman book from the 80s, this could certainly be it. Frank Miller's story, new interpretation of Batman, modern interpretation of Batman, one of the top 10 graphic novels of all time. He grabbed it in the CGC 9.8 white pages for $525. And yeah, I think that's a really great buy. I think I could have included this on my want list video. I've noticed me kind of searching on eBay for this book, and that's when you really know that you kind of want a book, I think. So $525, I think, was a really good stab by Dave. So Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, CGC 9.8 white pages. Next book here is Preacher #1, first full Jesse Custer and I saw one of these sell for $157.50. And I've seen these sort of in the 170s and kind of kicking on 200 at times, but I think that's a pretty decent price if you wanted a Preacher one. $157.50 in an auction. That one went for. A book that I don't think I've mentioned here, kind of an affordable DC issue, I think, a cool one. Swamp Thing number 50, which is the first Justice League Dark, and one of these sold for $119.99, so $120, I guess we'll call it. Swamp Thing number 50, first Justice League Dark, kind of a cool, affordable DC key issue in the 80s, I think. Pretty sure it's an 80s book, yeah. Teen Titans number 12 is the next book. I saw a lot of these sell for $350. Teen Titans number 12 is the first full appearance of the Batman Who Laughs. So really kind of one of the most popular modern villains. A lot of these were selling for $350, and I have one actually in the CGC 9.8, and I picked mine up for, it was like $220, $230 American. And seeing them kind of get up to $350 there, I thought it was a bit overvalued, and the hype, that's a lot for a modern book, and there's over 400 of them in the CGC 9.8 on the census. So one of these sold for $299.99, so $300. I think is like the fair price for it now, but I believe that this one will probably come down to $250, which at that point I would say at $250 it's probably one of the modern books to get, to be honest. Yeah, Teen Titans number 12, first print, first full appearance of the Batman Who Laughs, which, I think for good reason is the coolest modern villain that I can really think of. Like, I know there's first Null too, that, seems pretty cool, and I know there's a lot of villains that come out, but yeah, the first Batman Who Laughs is a really good one to have, and I was lucky to grab this one before it really ran up, even though I was essentially buying it overvalued at $220, $230 it was American. Many had went for $350, so $300, decent fair value price I would think right now. Next book's a pretty interesting one. I haven't seen it in a long time. Adventures of Superman number 500. It's from 1993. So Adventures of Superman number 500. Usually we don't talk about Superman books too much, but in the CGC 9.8, it's the first Steel and the first Superboy. So I think it would be first modern Superboy. I feel like they would have had Superboy back in the day. But first Steel, nonetheless, which is kind of a cool modern character that I remember a lot from the 90s with all those, like, Shaq movies of Steel and all that. One of these sold for $79.99. And yeah, Superman books from the early 90s aren't going to ever be worth that much because they were so printed and very popular. But this is probably one of the cooler ones to get, with first Steel and Superboy for $79.99. Adventures of Superman number 500. Saw a couple Ultimate Fallout number 4s sell in an auction. First Miles Morales, first new Spider-Man, a book we talk about and recommend kind of as, one of the modern books I think to get. And the prices are, I would say, heating up again. 2 auctions, I saw one go for $390, and I saw another one go for $425 in my research. So the one I purchased for myself was $355. And I, mentioned that a lot of these I went for over 400 for like a very long time, and I was kind of buying the dip. And it looks like these books are starting to perk up again. $390, $425 last week for Ultimate Fallout number 4, CGC 9.8 white pages. I saw Uncanny X-Men number 121 sell. So the first full appearance of Alpha Flight. That's a book I got too in the CGC 9.8 white pages. Saw one sell. Interesting though, this one, it was off white to white pages. So 9.8, but off-white to white pages. Sold for $599.99, so $600 we'll call it. And I kind of mentioned that's like I had bought mine for $550 in the white pages, and it's a really nice copy too. And I thought like that was like a great deal. So off-white to white pages to go for $600, I think is a pretty good deal. A really nice one in the white pages I've seen go for $800 before, so. Not bad in the off-white to white. A lot of times I do kind of recommend, though, if you're going to buy the CGC 9.8 white pages, just be a little more patient and get the white pages. If you are kind of tempted by an off-white to white page, I just think sometimes it just pays a little better for your OCD to be a little more patient and just get a really nice white pages version. But maybe that's just me, that, personal choice for sure. Next book's cool. Batman, the official motion picture Adaptation, the Prestige format. This came out in 1989. Affordable Batman book. That's kind of cool, especially if you're kind of nostalgic for that first Batman movie. It's got like Jack Nicholson Joker on the cover. $63. This one in auction, CGC 9.8. So yeah, not a probably bang on kind of fair price to a good price for that book. Next book, a cool one, a Marvel Team Up 141. So tied for first black costume in this book. A little bit different this one in a CBCS 9.8. Now, I saw one of these sell in a CGC 9.8 for $300 and like a buy it now. It was like $299.99. And I was like, wow, that's a good deal. Like, these books are coming down along with Amazing Spider-Man 252, the first black costume books, are really like coming down in price. But this one in the CBCS 9.8 sold for $350. So, I don't know if, maybe these books are coming back a little bit more. That's still, I think, a pretty good price, but usually CBCS books will go for a bit lower than a CGC 9.8. So, maybe I would have expected that to be about $300, but yeah, someone paid $350. And a cool key issue, yeah, for sure, in CBCS 9.8 or CGC 9.8. But these books have sort of come off along with Amazing Spider-Man 252 from like $450 to $500. Now, back down to kind of $350 to $300 sometimes I'm seeing them go for. And I would sort of buy that dip if you're looking for these books. These are like classic Spider-Man books. Amazing Spider-Man 252 being the Amazing Fantasy 15 first appearance of Spider-Man homage. So that's, I think, will be really collectible over the long term, kind of. Next book is a cool book I got too, the Silver Surfer 44, CGC 9.8. First appearance of the Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah, a really cool Thanos cover and a cool book to have. One sold for $169. And yeah, like one I got in an auction for $155, and the other one I kind of overpaid during Endgame. When it was out in theater, it kind of jacked up the prices a little bit, and I ended up paying $230 for one of mine. So $169, that's a fair price. I feel like if it looks really good and you want that book, I'd pay $170 for it if I didn't have like two already in the CGC 9.8. Cool book that sold, Mega Key from the 90s, a Batman Adventures number 12. A nice looking one in an old case, sold for $1,500. And this is a really good example of, sometimes I talk about prices and I'm probably talking about like a very good looking copy in a CGC new case. Those are the ones you tend to see the most. But a lot of times I'll reference like, hey, if you're patient in an old case, you might be able to get this for a little bit less, kind of thing. This is a good example of that. Batman Adventures 12, I've seen this book in a new case looking good, going for like $1,700, $1,800 I've seen them go for. So this one in an old case still looks pretty good too, but in an old case for $1,500. And that's, you kind of see that with these like big, the big books. In the old case, they will go for, let's call it 10% less than the equivalent looking book in a new case. So yeah, if you're on a budget or if you just, you're looking for deals and you want to, I think, especially in these big keys, it's a little bit, it really matter if it's an old case with a big key. Like, you really just want to buy the book. The book looks great. If it's, especially with these old keys, the older case is not as big of a deal. In my opinion, I don't think is kind of sort of my feeling about it. But at Batman Adventures 12, $1,500 in an old case. Good price, I think. Next book, yeah, Batman Beyond number 1. So one of my favorite issues, certainly probably my favorite modern issue, to be honest. Like, one modern issue I'd recommend would be Batman Beyond number 1. First Batman Beyond, first Terry McGinnis. Hopefully they make a movie in like the next 10 years and it'll be awesome. Of course it would be. So one of these saw him sell for $490 in the CGC 9.8 last week, just to do my research this morning. Yeah, this one was, the UPC version, like this one here. That's kind of the one that I sort of recommend to go for. There's some like really other rare prints too, but in the CGC 9.8, this is, it's more expensive than the Origin issue, and there's a couple other like Six Flag print issues, but just the first print, the day it came out on the comic book shelf, the first day it came out, it has the UPC code here. It's the best version to get for Batman Beyond number 1. And in the CGC 9.8 white pages, just like this one, in a new case, one went for $490. And I mentioned this is on my want list video that I made a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned I sent in a best offer on Batman Beyond for $465, and that was declined. And I wanted to just, I didn't really want it. I want to kind of get a deal possibly on my third one because I already have 2 of these. So yeah, one I would recommend. It's expensive, like $490. The reason it's expensive is Batman Beyond is so popular, and there's only 160 something of these on the census. So, for the popularity of the character, there should be like 500 to 600, but it came out in 1999. It wasn't well printed during the comic book recession, where printing really came down, and that's the reason why this book's expensive, basically. So next book, Star Wars 42, super classic key. First Boba Fett and first Yoda too, which most people don't really know, but Star Wars 42 is basically like Star Wars number 1 and Star Wars 42 are the huge keys out of the whole Star Wars run. In a newsstand version I saw sell, really nice looking one to be honest, for $499. And very nice looking one, very well centered. If I saw this in Canada, the pictures looked really good, so I would be very tempted by this. If I kind of saw it in Canada for cheap shipping and kind of no taxes or whatever, I would be really tempted. But $499 is a pretty full price. I think in auctions for the newsstand, I saw that go to closer to $400 or like $420, maybe pushing $450 in an auction. But so it is somewhat of a full price for that book. When it looks really good, and I mean that's there's all those minor details with books. So I think this one, it just looked immaculate, basically. Newsstand version of Star Wars 42. First Boba Fett, first Yoda for $499. Next book's a really cool modern book. Wolverine number 66. The first Old Man Logan stories. And this came out in 2003. I saw one sell for $138. And this is, I think, kind of like a pretty bang-on full retail price, I think, for this book, basically. Like, I've seen it go for like $100, basically, in auctions. And, yeah, like, sort of anywhere from like 100 to 110, you see them go for a lot in that range. So maybe look to get it more in that range if you're in the market for this book. Cool modern book, though. Yeah, first Old Man Logan stories begin, Wolverine number 66. I saw an Amazing Spider-Man 361. First full Carnage sell, the direct version of it. Not the newsstand, the direct version. One of them sold for $379. So, and that's that's a fair price, I would say. A fair to get into a, pretty full price for that book. If you're really patient, I think, I've heard of people picking up this book for $300, basically. Or, just over $300. This one wasn't 100% best centering either. I always recommend on these like early 90s books, even in the CGC 9.8, to be really picky on centering, especially for early 90s books, because there's a lot of them out there, so they're always going to be popping up on eBay, like auctions and, new listings, things like that. So, kind of pays to be a little bit more picky, I think, on Amazing Spider-Man 361, and New Mutants 98 would be another one, which I didn't see any in my research this morning for New Mutants 98. Saw a couple Spawn number 1s go for it, and I mentioned they kind of went for around $100 in the last few videos where I talked about Spawn number 1 in the direct edition, the CGC 9.8, and I saw 2 last week sell for $99.99, and buy it now in the CGC 9.8. So yeah, $100 kind of the going rate for Spawn number 1. Really cool Star Wars comic. It's Star Wars 52, so not a key issue, but a really cool Darth Vader cover. And I've always thought, like, I got a couple non-key issue Star Wars books, and they're like Darth Vader covers, basically, in the CGC 9.8. And yeah, I always kind of keep an eye on these because I just like classic Darth Vader covers, and they're not very expensive. Like, this one, Star Wars 52, probably one of the coolest Darth Vader covers, underfollowed Darth Vader covers of the whole. There's a couple others in the 20 issues too, but Star Wars 52 sold for $105. And I think that's a pretty fair price for this book. It was looking pretty good. A direct edition, so it wasn't like a newsstand or anything, but very cool Darth Vader cover. Star Wars 52, if you're interested in Darth Vader covers. Last book on the list. Okay, we went through the whole list. Yeah, I got a lot of sweet key issues. I think that Batman The Dark Knight Returns that Dave got for $525. I think that's going to be a great price long term for that book. Last book is Eternal Warrior number 44. This is the first appearance of Bloodshot in a cameo. Kind of a pretty cool cameo, so it's a pretty, kind of a major key, almost known as the first appearance of Bloodshot, even though it's like Ride number 0 is the first appearance of Bloodshot. Personally, I love the cover on this one way better. I'm not the biggest Bloodshot fan too much, and I'm not even the biggest fan of Vin Diesel either, although I saw the trailer for Bloodshot, and it does look pretty cool, but I probably won't see it, to be honest. But this book I've wanted to purchase because I just love the cover. Like, the cover's awesome with the crazy ninja warrior on the front. So 2 of them sold, I saw in the research. Yeah, really cool cover to get, certainly if you like Bloodshot. I prefer this one over Rye 0. One sold for $139.99, so $140 we'll call it. Another in an auction sold for $127.15. And yeah, $127.15, I think, in this sort of environment with like the trailer dropping and like, I just saw a movie the other night and there was the Bloodshot trailer before the movie in theater. So to get it for $127.15, I think is actually a pretty good price during this environment because, yeah, certainly starting to heat up for Bloodshot. But I think it's coming out in theater in the next couple of months here. All right, that's going to be it for, that's my full list that I grabbed this morning, doing some research for completed sales and prices, CGC 9.8 comic books. Definitely the best thing you can do if you're actively buying CGC 9.8 comic books, or if you're just getting into it and thinking of buying. Yeah, the best thing you can do is just really kind of a weekly pricing research type of thing where all the key issues you may want, you just check out the prices that they've sold. Certainly, if you're doing it in the CGC 9.8, it helps so much. There's a big price range between issues, so want to be knowledgeable of like the actual completed sales, not like what's on eBay at certain prices on eBay. Doesn't even matter. It's like what it sells at matters. All right, that'll be it for this video. If you haven't already, I invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Love to have you on our comic book collecting team. Still early stages of the channel too, so kind of need all the subs we can get. That would be super appreciated. Yeah, when you press subscribe, the bell pops up, and hit the bell, get all our latest notifications, because yeah, hopefully you can get a roll on videos. Usually I do about 4 or 5 a week. So okay, yeah, full list of prices, lots of good information, I think, and yeah, cool to see a Batman Beyond sell and Silver Surfer 44 sell. And some great additions by the team, too. Yeah, Batman 423, like one of the nicest ones I've ever seen for $420 by Brett, is looking great, too. Alright, yeah, thanks so much for watching today. Really appreciate all the support, and thank you very much. I'll see you on the next one.